Imagine stepping off a plane, walking into an airport, and suddenly finding yourself inside a giant glass dome filled with gardens, waterfalls, and even a forest. This is not science fiction. This is Singapore's Jewel Changi Airport. But here's the big question. Why did Singapore spend $2 billion to build what looks more like a futuristic theme park than an airport? To understand the answer, we need to go deeper. Because the Jewel isn't just about beauty, it's about survival, strategy, and Singapore's fight to stay on top in a world where airports are more than just runways. Chapter 1. The world's most competitive airport race. In today's world, airports are no longer just gateways where planes land and passengers depart. They've become mega arenas of competition, where nations fight for prestige, tourism, and economic dominance. Every detail matters, because for millions of travelers, the airport is their first and last impression of a country. Look at Dubai. It turned its airport into a shopping paradise, boasting luxury malls that feel like cities inside a city. Qatar went all in on comfort, building lounges that rival five-star hotels, complete with spas, swimming pools, and even art galleries. Hong Kong once ruled the skies with its reputation for efficiency, speed, and seamless connections, setting a gold standard for hubs across Asia. In this fierce race, price alone doesn't decide where people fly. Travelers now ask, will I be entertained? Will I feel comfortable? Will I enjoy my stopover? An outdated or stressful airport doesn't just annoy passengers, it pushes them to choose other routes in other countries. Singapore understood this perfectly. Unlike bigger nations with oil or vast farmland, its survival depends on being the region's best connector. Every tourist who stops over, every business meeting that happens in transit, every airline that chooses Changi instead of Dubai or Doha, all of it fuels the economy. In short, air travel isn't just an industry for Singapore, it's a lifeline. Losing that competitive edge wouldn't just dent its image, it would cost billions. Chapter 2. Why a dome, not just another terminal? Most countries, when faced with rising passenger numbers, simply expand their airports by adding another terminal, more gates, or bigger runways. But Singapore saw that this approach would not guarantee an edge in the long run. Why? Because concrete walls and larger halls may handle more people, but they don't inspire them. And in the global airport race, inspiration matters. So Singapore took a bold leap. Instead of building more of the same, it created something no one else dared to attempt. A breathtaking glass and steel dome that feels more like a futuristic city than an airport hall. Spanning 1.46 million square feet, the Jewel is not only enormous, bigger than 20 football fields, it is also designed to blur the line between travel hub and tourist attraction. At the heart of this masterpiece stands the rain vortex, a 40-meter indoor waterfall that cascades dramatically from the dome's roof, dazzling visitors day and night with light shows. Surrounding it is the Shiseido Forest Valley, a lush indoor garden filled with 2,000 trees and over 100,000 shrubs from around the world. But Singapore didn't stop at greenery. Suspended canopy bridges, butterfly gardens, play areas, and even a hotel turned the space into an adventure. Add luxury shops, fine dining, and entertainment zones, and suddenly the airport isn't just a transit point, it's a destination. By daring to build a dome instead of another terminal, Singapore reinvented the very meaning of what an airport could be. Not a waiting area, but an experience travelers crave. Chapter 3. The psychology behind it. At first glance, building a $2 billion dome filled with waterfalls and gardens might seem extravagant, but the reasoning behind it isn't just about aesthetics, it's about human psychology. Traveling is one of the most stressful activities modern people endure. Long security lines, heavy luggage, flight delays, cramped seating, these factors elevate tension and fatigue. Most airports amplify this stress with sterile walls, endless corridors, and little natural light. Singapore flipped the script. By introducing the Jewel, they turned the airport into an oasis. Instead of feeling trapped in a transit hub, passengers are greeted by greenery, running water, and open space. Science shows that nature reduces anxiety, lowers blood pressure, and improves mood. Add in the soothing sound of the rain vortex, or the sight of towering indoor trees. And suddenly the brain associates Singapore with calm and wonder. This is more than decoration. It's branding through experience. When travelers feel welcomed and amazed, they form a subconscious connection. Singapore is modern, safe, and extraordinary. That memory lingers long after the flight. And here's the payoff. Happy travelers don't just pass through, they linger, shop more, dine more, and even plan return trips. They tell their families and post photos online, becoming ambassadors for the airport and, by extension, the nation. In short, the Jewel isn't just a structure, it's a carefully engineered emotional journey designed to make every traveler fall in love with Singapore before they even step outside the airport. Chapter 4. Money doesn't fall from the sky, but spending $2 billion on a glass dome might sound like financial madness, unless you understand how airports work. An airport isn't just a transportation hub, it's a business empire disguised as a terminal. Every square meter is an opportunity to earn. Inside the Jewel, retail stores pay premium rents for the privilege of being seen by millions of passengers each year. From luxury brands to everyday conveniences, every sale feeds revenue back into the airport. Restaurants do the same, charging higher than normal prices, knowing that hungry travelers and families with time to spare will happily pay. But the real genius lies in how the Jewel transforms tourism behavior. Instead of treating Singapore as just a stopover, travelers now deliberately extend their layovers, sometimes by 12, 24, even 48 hours, just to explore the Jewel. That extra time translates into hotel stays, taxi rides, dining and shopping, each dollar flowing directly into Singapore's wider economy. On top of that, the Jewel has become a global attraction in its own right. People don't just pass through, they fly to Singapore because of it. Families plan vacations, influencers post pictures, and tour groups add it to itineraries. This steady stream of visitors generates long-term income that dwarfs the initial cost. In short, the Jewel isn't a financial burden, it's a profit engine cleverly disguised as art. By making travel unforgettable, Singapore ensures that every smile, every photo, and every purchase turns into a return on investment. Chapter 5. The Singapore Strategy, Stay Number 1. For Singapore, Changi Airport is far more than a place where planes take off and land. It is a national symbol and a pillar of survival. Unlike larger nations blessed with oil reserves, fertile farmland, or vast natural resources, Singapore has almost none of these. Its prosperity has always depended on trade, connectivity, and its ability to position itself as the region's essential crossroads. That's why aviation is not just an industry here, it's a lifeline. Every airline that chooses to route through Changi means more passengers, more spending, and more prestige flowing into the nation's economy. But in the high-stakes game of global air hubs, competition is relentless. Dubai is expanding aggressively, Doha has its luxury appeal, and even Kuala Lumpur, just a short flight away, is fighting for regional dominance. If Singapore were to lose its title as the world's favorite airport, it wouldn't just be a symbolic blow. It could drain billions of dollars in revenue and weaken its competitive edge. That's where the Jewel comes in. It isn't just about dazzling waterfalls or lush greenery. It's a strategic shield, a way of telling the world Changi isn't just keeping up, it's staying ahead. In essence, the Jewel is Singapore's insurance policy. By creating an experience no traveler forgets, Singapore ensures that airlines continue to choose Changi, passengers prefer to stop there, and the nation's reputation as the world's premier gateway remains unshakable. Chapter 6. The Dome as a National Story. The Jewel isn't just glass, steel, and gardens. It's a symbol of Singapore itself. Few countries have transformed as dramatically or as quickly. In the 1960s, Singapore was dismissed as a struggling island with swamps, crowded villages, and no natural resources. Its survival was doubted, its future uncertain. Yet in just one generation, it reinvented itself into one of the world's safest, richest, and most advanced nations. How did it happen? Not through oil, gold, or farmland. Singapore had none. Instead, it relied on innovation, discipline, and bold decisions. Leaders invested in education, technology, and infrastructure. They turned scarcity into motivation and limitations into creativity. Every skyscraper, every efficient system, every world-class project tells the same story. Singapore succeeds because it dares to imagine what others think impossible. The Jewel Dome is a continuation of that story. It isn't only about giving travelers a pleasant experience, it's about showing the world what Singapore stands for. A small country with no room to expand outward chooses instead to expand upward and inward, creating futuristic marvels where others see limits. That's why the dome over Changi feels less like a building and more like a national metaphor. It says, Singapore doesn't wait for the future to arrive. It builds the future with its own hands. And in doing so, it proves that size doesn't define strength. Vision does. Chapter 7. What travelers actually feel. Stepping inside the Jewel doesn't feel like entering an airport. It feels like stepping into another world. Travelers often describe it as walking into paradise. Instead of the harsh glare of fluorescent lights, they are greeted by sunlight streaming through the glass dome. Instead of the constant hum of engines and announcements, they hear the soothing roar of the rain vortex, the tallest indoor waterfall on Earth. The air itself feels different. The scent of fresh plants, over 100,000 of them, softens the sterile smell of jet fuel and recycled air. Families spread out on garden benches, children splash in play areas, and couples pose for photos beneath a shimmering cascade of water. Business travelers, normally rushing from gate to gate, find themselves pausing, phones out, capturing the moment. It doesn't feel like waiting for a flight. It feels like being on vacation already. And that's the genius of the Jewel. Instead of associating airports with stress, delays, and frustration, travelers form memories of calm, wonder, and even joy. Psychologists call this emotional anchoring. When people experience delight in a place, they remember it more vividly and positively. For Changi, this means travelers leave not just impressed, but emotionally attached. They tell their friends, post their photos online, and, most importantly, choose to fly through Singapore again. That deep emotional connection is what makes Changi unbeatable. It isn't just an airport anymore. It's a place people fall in love with. Chapter 8. Global Attention and Copycats. When the Jewel opened its doors in 2019, it didn't just welcome travelers. It captured the world's imagination. Within weeks, photos of the rain vortex and lush indoor gardens were flooding Instagram, TikTok, and travel blogs. Millions of visitors snapped selfies under the glowing waterfall, turning the Jewel into one of the most photographed airport attractions on Earth. In a digital age, that kind of free publicity is priceless. But global attention also sparks competition. Very quickly, rival airports took notice. Doha's Hamad International began expanding with tropical gardens and high-end art. Dubai, never one to be outdone, started upgrading its terminals with new entertainment features. Even airports in Europe and North America began rethinking design, shifting from sterile waiting halls to experiential hubs that keep travelers engaged and inspired. Yet despite these moves, Singapore still holds a crucial advantage. It was first. And in the world of global branding, being first means setting the standard. The Jewel isn't remembered as just another airport upgrade, it's remembered as the original, the bold project that redefined what an airport could be. This matters because travel is about stories. When people talk about their journeys, they don't say, "I had a long layover in Singapore." They say, "I saw the world's tallest indoor waterfall at the airport." That story spreads faster than any advertisement. In the race to impress travelers, copycats may come close. But Singapore's Jewel will always remain the pioneer. Chapter 9. The Pandemic Test. The Jewel's timing seemed almost cursed. It opened with global fanfare in April 2019, only for the COVID-19 pandemic to bring international travel to a standstill less than a year later. Suddenly, the once bustling dome stood eerily silent. Shops shuttered, restaurants closed. The majestic rain vortex fell quiet. Its nightly light shows paused. For months, critics called the project a colossal miscalculation, a $2 billion extravagance that had no place in a world where people weren't even flying. But Singapore had built the jewel with a long-term vision, not just for a single moment in time. As borders slowly reopened and travelers returned to the skies, the jewel became a magnet once more. The same features that once seemed like luxuries, the gardens, the waterfall, the sense of wonder, now felt essential in a post-pandemic world where people craved uplifting, restorative experiences. By 2022, as tourism surged back, the jewel was no longer viewed as a mistake but as proof of foresight. Travelers who had spent 2 years grounded by lockdowns wanted more than just efficiency. They wanted beauty, adventure, and inspiration. The jewel delivered exactly that. Today, Changi Airport is once again ranked among the best in the world, and the jewel has become a symbol of resilience. What was once called a gamble is now celebrated as a triumph, showing that bold investments, even in uncertain times, can pay off far beyond expectations. Chapter 10. The bigger lesson for the world. So why did Singapore build a $2 billion dome over its airport? The answer reaches far beyond travel. In today's world, success doesn't always belong to the biggest or the richest nations. It belongs to those bold enough to reimagine what's possible. The jewel is proof of this mindset. Instead of seeing an airport as just a place to wait for flights, Singapore transformed it into an attraction, an ecosystem, and a story. That boldness turned necessity into opportunity. Where others might have built another concrete terminal, Singapore built an icon. And this lesson goes beyond airports. In business, in nations, even in our personal lives, the future favors those who create experiences that people never forget. It's about crafting moments that inspire loyalty, spark joy, and build lasting memories. For Singapore, the jewel is more than glass and gardens. It's a declaration that a small nation with no oil, no farmland, and little landmass can still lead the world by daring to think differently. It shows that resilience and imagination can outshine size and resources. In the end, the dome over Changi isn't just about tourism or prestige. It's a symbol of vision, a reminder that bold ideas, executed with precision, can change how the world sees you. And that's the real lesson. You don't have to be the biggest to matter. You only have to be brave enough to build the future. Conclusion: a dome of dreams. The jewel at Changi is far more than a structure of glass and steel. It is a masterpiece that blends nature with technology, engineering with imagination, and strategy with storytelling. Yes, it has waterfalls, forests, and futuristic bridges, but beneath all of that lies something deeper, a reflection of Singapore's very soul. It reminds us that airports don't have to be cold gateways of stress. They can be destinations in their own right, places where people are inspired, comforted, and amazed. More importantly, they can become powerful symbols of national pride. The jewel tells the world a simple but profound story: that Singapore is bold enough to dream, disciplined enough to build, and visionary enough to lead. It transforms waiting into wonder, layovers into memories, and a stopover into a global headline. So the next time someone asks, why did Singapore build a $2 billion dome over its airport? You'll know the answer. It wasn't just about tourism or money or competition. It was about something far greater: identity, pride, and vision. Because sometimes the most expensive projects are not measured in dollars, but in the stories they tell and the legacy they leave behind. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. More powerful insights into history, culture, and the hidden lessons shaping our world are coming your way.